Hello. I'd like to say that as a 55-year-old man, look back to what happened 30 years ago when I was 25. Okay. Actually, let's go to 26. Actually, approximate age. Um, I met up with some lady that was a Christian lady, and I fell in love with her, and I wanted to marry her. And here I was kind of like not quite a theist, not quite an atheist. I thought I could be an in between guy. And I was raised Catholic, but it wasn't a strict upbringing, so I didn't really have a grasp on religion like most indoctrinated kids are. See, my mom and dad had 12 kids, and by the time I came along, I'm the 10th kid. They had some kind of beef with the church and they stopped going to church. All my older siblings are might have been slightly indoctrinated into religion, and they're all still believers. So I stand alone in my family. Stand alone as the only atheist in my family. I mentioned 12 because one of us 12 died right after birth. It was kind of like or it was more like a miscarriage. It was like um, miscarriage or die at birth thing or whatever. So my mom and dad, practiced that. There is no birth control allowed in Catholic Church. And I guess my mom and dad were going at it every year, and every year or every other year they had another kid, and I ended up being the 10th kid. By the 10th kid, they're like fucking burnt out. They're like eventually they probably stopped having sex after a while because I'm fucking plugging away for like 20 years, and then decide to buy a television, sit in front of the television eating popcorn instead of having fucking sex anymore. You don't want to have any more fucking kids. So, anyways, before that time, when they decided to retire their baby making, and my youngest brother, who was born in 1972, um, I don't know. Like I said, my older siblings went to church, but they quit church around the time of my infancy and babyhood because I never was exposed to church. So but my dad had a lot of books. He had a lot of encyclopedias, and I would go, and I was such a curious child because my dad worked two jobs because fuck, you have 11 kids, you had to work two jobs. We had our own house, a big house, where he actually built a second floor because we had so many fucking kids. In addition to the 11 kids, well, when I was a child, most of the older siblings reached adulthood and moved out, so there was probably two older brothers and a younger brother, maybe a sister, or there's probably maybe four or five left in the house. Everyone else moved off, got married, or went about their own life or something. Well, anyways, I was like a rebel. Once I turned teenage years, I was a rebel. I just wanted heavy metal, weed, and mescaline. Heavy metal, weed, and mescaline was my life. And Ozzy, Ozzy was more like my religion as a young teenager. Uh, Even when I was a kid, I read through these dictionaries and encyclopedias, and I used to be like a bookworm. They used to have to. I learned how to read before I was in kindergarten. I was like kind of self-taught to read, but not really self-taught because I would as soon as I learned what A B C D E F G was, I'll try to put the letters together in the book, even though I didn't know how to read. So I'd like stay awake till 3 or 4 in the morning till my dad came home. And he says, "What the fuck are you doing up at 3 in the morning?" He remember I told you he worked 2 jobs. So what the fuck you doing up at 3 in the morning? You're supposed to be sleeping. You gotta go to school in the morning. And he says, "Well, it's just to see you, Dad." So I grew up without the father for a while. My mother was kind of a cherry picker of the Bible, and she was Catholic. So, but she said, "Love your neighbor like yourself," and for God so loved the world that, and the Adam and Eve, the Noah and the Abraham, and all that other shit were true things. I wasn't interested in the Bible. I did pick it up to read it as a little boy, but everything goes over your head when you're a little boy. You don't understand what you're reading. I understood science because science said the way it was. There's no parables. There's no confusion or extraordinary meanings of this or extraordinary meanings of that. Science was science. Science was fact. In the Bible, it's all guesswork. You got to guess what might be true or is zany and false. And I had a lot of doubts when I was a kid, but I was told from the time I was a baby that the Bible is true and it's supposed to be true. And that's the way it is. Don't question it. But anyways, by the time I was a teenager, I forgot all about all the reading in the Bible and anything else about that. I didn't show my smarts in school, so I flunked out and flunked out. I was a high school dropout because my whole life centered around, we're going to get weed and mescaline, and we're going to trip out and listen to Ozzy records. That was my religion. And my other focus was when am I ever going to get laid? That happened sometime in my teenage years. And then as a young adult, by the time I was 18, I wanted to move out of my parents' house. So I had to go do some adulting and actually went to college for a little while. Wanted to get a good job so I could move out of my mother and father's. So I did get a job and moved out and got out on my own. And I made good money right away because I was in the machine shop trade. And the machine shop trade back in the late 80s might have paid $300 a week. Keep in mind that an $8 an hour job was twice the minimum wage back then. So, anyways, we're talking about my early 20s. I still didn't give a fuck about a Bible or religion. And then I met up with this crazy loony bitch. I was doing good with my career for a couple years. I met up with this crazy loony bitch that wanted to fuck all the time. And she's like a nurse's aide, so she had access to pharmaceutical drugs, as well as being in the borderline of Detroit, Michigan. There's always drugs. And then once I got my taste of some real pharmaceutical drugs and did some good street drugs, and I'm still all about party, party, party. I partied so much and got laid so much that I stopped going into work. And I got fired from that job, and then I got another job where I was doing really good. And then I went back to, hey, life is just a party. I'm still in my early 20s. Okay? And then after a couple good jobs and getting fired from a couple good jobs, then I got a bad name for myself, and no other machine shop's going to hire me now. And I went homeless for a couple of years. The bitch ripped me off because once you lose your job, then the bitch clears out your apartment and you only leave with the clothes on your back. And I had to start from scratch. And then, shit, I don't know what I did. And I probably went to department store work, like a grocery store or Walmart or something. And then I wanted to get back in my field. So I went into grinding. I went to a welding shop and I was grinding and then learned how to weld and stuff. And that went on for a couple of years, and it's a very good job. And during that time, I met up with another crazy loony bitch. But this time, this bitch was like a Bible thumper. She was a Christian lady, but she was so fucking banging hot. She had perfectly round tits, the hourglass figure, perfectly round booty, and a fucking hot, tight, wet fucking pussy. And I got pussy whipped like a dumb fucking 20-something-year-old. And she says, well, if we really want to get together, you got to get together with God, with me. And I said, oh, I don't know. I was not really knowledgeable in the Bible because, like I said, I didn't even bother with it at a young age at all. Once she said it's going to take this to get with her, I said, well, I'm going to have to start reading it. Went to page 1. And I went through it. I was going chapter to chapter. But then it started to get fucking boring once you started getting to genealogies, like who begat who, and they begat who. And then they have stories about 800-year-olds and 900-year-olds. And hey, like my mom and dad told me, you're supposed to believe it. You're supposed to believe it, even if it sounds like it's extraordinarily hilarious or obviously untrue. Hey, God did this. You're supposed to do it. And I still believed it to that day. I was like 26 years old. And I met the woman who was going to be my wife. I kind of grasped onto like the God concept, like there really is a God. And maybe that God hooked us two together. And it's like, hey, I gotta please him first in order to get to her, and dumb shit like that. And as I'm gonna read this through and through. The first time I read it through, I think I kind of skimmed over it. I wanted to skip over the boring stuff. And then if there's something fucking terrible, like he killed this and he killed that and he killed the other thing and blah blah blah, I'm gonna skip through all the bad stuff that disturbs me about the fucking killings and how you can own slaves and shit like that. And what about how a snake talked and a donkey talked? And some guy had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Ignore that stuff. Like my mom and dad told me, it's supposed to be true because it is of God. It's supposed to be true. And I still had held on to that belief, even though it seems like it's fucking imaginary and make believe. It's supposed to be true because your parents told you it's supposed to be true. And they said you're supposed to believe in God or else. If you don't believe in God or else means, hey, you never believed in God throughout your whole life. Now you're going to burn in hell. So you wonder why I'm an atheist. You ever have someone actually cry that you're an atheist? Well, are you an atheist? You said, if I don't believe this crap, I'm going to burn for fucking forever. That's why I'm an atheist. But why are you an atheist? Well, why? Let's skip over the fucking... I went 17 minutes without even reading verses. Because I want to extend this video longer and longer. Okay, now, all right. I told you that I made pretense that I was going to be a Christian. And then I got wrapped up into it and I said, well, I know I have doubts here and doubts there, and I don't believe this is true, and believe that is true. But then, of course, my future wife was going to say, you can't get the pussy now. So I made pretend that we met up with church pastor, and church pastor said, now, Mo, it ain't going to work unless you get right with God. And I said, well, I think I can get right with God. How do I do that? You just got to hold hands with other people and say, oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. I did wrong. I turn over my life to you. Blah, blah, blah. You know, the salvation prayer, like, well, I give myself to you. An imaginary fucking character called Jesus. Well, okay. I'm going to go along with it. And it's going good for a while. We were actually together a year and a half before we got married, which is contradictory to her beliefs, where she was getting the raw dog from me without being married for a year and a half. So she's a fucking hypocrite. And then I thought to myself, I'm a fucking hypocrite too. Here we were plugging away at it for a year and a half. We're not even married. We're supposed to be Christians. We're doing wrong by the Lord. I think we should get married. I just, spur of the moment, said, we're doing wrong with the Lord. You know, we're still plugging away at it, and we're living together even, and not married. I think it's wrong. Let's get married. That's not a good excuse to get married. I would have been, if I could go back in time, I would have rather dumped her right then. But once you get married, the happy joy and the happy joy goes away for some fucking reason. I know it's only a piece of paper, but I felt indebted that I have to make this work. Even though I really didn't love her, I might have been using her for hot sex all along. And then by 3 years of marriage, you see, it's not that the sex got stale. It's because the religion got stronger now. Now she thinks she has a mastery over me. She's going to say, you did something wrong here. You did something wrong there. And once you agree to this contract, you got to abide by it all. And I thought that to myself. I'm going to have to read it over again. You have to read it over again, and don't skip over the bad parts. Don't skip over the boring parts. And the absolute laughable parts. Don't skip over anything. Go one letter by one letter, every fucking word. And maybe the second time over, I read it completely through, but I was still religious. And after 3 years of marriage, I had news that my mom died. Well, let's skip. Beforehand, we got at each other's throats, and we decided we're gonna live separate for like 3 months or something. And she didn't trust me, so she went on investigating, and I actually sabotaged the marriage on purpose, where I was going to go back to drinking and using drugs, and I fucking tapped a couple other ladies during that time. So I said, well, hey, I already did it. I went back to the drinking and drugs and fucking other women. So there's a divorce right there. And then about the same day that the divorce went to court, my mom died. And so I was still kind of a Christian then. So I actually still clutched onto Christianity. And I said, Lord, before these two events happened, Lord, please don't let me get divorced. Lord, please don't let my mother die. Guess what happened? I got divorced and my mother died. So what the fuck did he do for me? Fucking nothing. I didn't go to atheism just at that time yet. I was homeless, hungry, and when you're in that little vulnerable situation, where do you go for comfort? Other than beer. If I had beer or weed, that's more comfort than this. But during the beer and weed, you're kind of still a Christian. And you say, well, I got to better understand what this religion is really about. During my homeless times, I read this through again. And at that time, I was getting on fire because I looked at like the Book of Psalms like it was a rock concert. Like, the Psalms are like songs. You sing them out. Sing a song. And then that shit started disturbing me very much because sometimes you'd be singing the psalms out on the public streets in the public bus. People could look at you really mean, like, shut the fuck up. You're actually singing the Bible verses on the street corners or at the bus stop or in the public bus. And people are looking at you mean like they want to fucking kill you. Why are you doing that? But anyways. There's a few verses that contributed to my deconversion where one day I decided I am an atheist because Psalm 21, verse 7 onward. For the king trusteth in the Lord, and through mercy of the Most High he shall not be moved. Thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. Thy right hand shall find out all those who hate thee. Thou shalt make them a fiery oven. Thou shalt make people a fiery oven. Talking about burning people. They're talking about burning people. Now that's a little bit too harsh for me. God said he burns people. And this is the one that's supposed to be right. This is the one that's supposed to be trusted. This is the everything's supposed to be true. Everything's real. What? No, he's talking about fucking burning people to death. I'm not going to accept that. Thine hand shall find out all thy enemies. Thy right hand shall find out all those who hate thee. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thine anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. It's like making people into a bonfire. You swallow them up, what, in the fucking ground, and then there's fucking burning embers of fucking burning flesh and burning fucking bones. And those were people. That's not timber or lumber or anything. He's talking about burning people to death. The fire shall devour them. That means that they're fucking ash. Their fruit shall thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. That means you're burning fucking children to fucking death. And that's when I said, I got so mad at that I pelted the book to the asphalt so hard that it'll break apart. That's why I got all kinds of busted up Bibles and shit. Because there's one time I pelted the Bible so hard to the asphalt that I wanted it to break apart, and it nearly broke in half. And I said, fuck you. And that's when I ended my religion. It was around age 31. I'm 55 now. It can happen to you. Just read all the horrible stuff in the Bible. It can happen to you, and dump your religion.